Hey everybody, this is Manny, and I'm going to do something a little different here. I'm going to do my race report as a screencast, um, just basically talking about the race and showing you the points, the routes, the locations, and all that other excellent fun stuff. So here we go. The 2013 Nocturnal 18-hour adventure race. This year was located here in the Lower Wekiva State Preserve, which is a really nice, beautiful area, which is kind of just northwest of Sanford. Great area, lots of trails for biking and riding. We have the St. Johns River very close by. The Wekiva River is also very nearby. And right down here, you can barely see it, but there's a small river called the Blackwater Creek. I guess you call it a creek. That's where we did a lot of our tough paddling during this race. More about that later. The race itself started right in this location, this open area. It's a little ranch here. That was the start and finish line for the race. And it was going to be an 18-hour race starting at 3 p.m. on Saturday and ending at 9 a.m. on Sunday. This year, Team Nature Calls was going to be myself, obviously, along with Jay, or Jason Amadori, as some of you know him, and a friend of ours, Aaron Friedman. We were going to have a female to make it a true elite co-ed team. However, Mei Lee, our friend, got sick this past week and unfortunately couldn't race for obvious reasons. Doing an 18-hour race is not an easy task. So it was just a three-male team, and we were going to do our best. So here we go. So the race started, as I said earlier, at 3 p.m. We all got on our bikes, got lined up near the finish line, or I'm sorry, start line, and at 3 p.m. exactly, off we went. We started with a short bike section. It was, I think, around 3 kilometers or so, and we were just riding down a trail, very nice sandy trail, kind of packed sand. And we were just basically riding down the trail until we reached this little intersection here where we were going to drop off our bikes and take off on foot for a fairly tough, because of the weather, trekking section. So that first little bike was about like I said, 3.1 kilometers, and it took us around 10 minutes to get it done. All right, dropped off our bikes and off we went on the trek section. Trekking section, I won't cover the entire thing, but as you can see here, we had 8 checkpoints to pick up in a rather large area here. It wasn't, again, a tough section, but the weather, it was now, 3:20 p.m. Saturday afternoon, incredibly hot. Most of the areas through here and all around here were wide open with no shade. We did get some cover up here, but most of the areas down here were wide open with no shade, so it just made it brutally hot out there, sweating like crazy, and we had just started the race. So we picked up the checkpoints fairly easy. Didn't really have any problem finding them. And the entire race, or I'm sorry, the entire section only took us around 1 hour and 56 minutes. It was a 12, almost 13 kilometer section that we finished. We arrived at the TA off the bikes. We were the first team to come into the trekking area, and we were the second team to leave with Dr. Ron's team, or Honey Stingers, were the first team to leave, but they were pretty close ahead of us. We could see them down the trail. So anyway, we got back to the trekking area, got on our biking gear, and on the bikes we went. This next biking section was a fairly easy biking section. We had to ride down the trail. The total ride took us, it was probably around just a little bit shy of 6 kilometers. And ended up taking us just over 30 minutes to ride the section. We had 1 checkpoint to find along the way, and then right around here, we picked up the Florida Foot Trail and had to go north to find checkpoint 2. This area is right about where we saw Dr. Ron's team, the Honey Stingers. they had decided to drop off their bikes and trek up to the checkpoint, stay on the floater foot trail. We decided to punch through and come out on the main road, Hannah Drive, with our bikes, and we rode up the main road and found the checkpoint off our bikes. Pretty easy and quick since we were riding. This is a really nice road. We saw Ron's team, or I'm sorry, Honey Stingers, right around here as we were riding and they were trekking. So we rode back down the trail, found the boat TA right down here, fairly easy, and we were just about ready to start a pretty long paddling section. Before that, let me show you. That whole section was about 5.4K, and like I said, it took us around 37 minutes. Probably a little less than that, but I usually, when I get to the TAs, I forget to stop my watch and set the lap record, so I probably did it a little late. So now it was time to paddle, and this was going to be a doozy. So we had just gotten off our bikes and had reached the boat TA, and we're about to start a fairly long paddling section. The section was split into two. We were going to paddle upstream on the Blackwater Creek, finding 3 checkpoints, and then come back and paddle downstream towards the Wekiva River and continue on to our next TA. So we get on our boats, the boat TA. Again, we were the first team there, get on the water and start paddling upstream down Blackwater Creek, finding the 3 checkpoints. Checkpoint 3 was fairly easy to find right on the water. Checkpoint 4 was once again fairly easy to find right along the water, no issues. From there, it was a pretty long paddle down to checkpoint 5, as you can see here. Still pretty nice open water, except for the fact that it started raining on us very, very hard at this point. Lightning everywhere and just torrential storm. And it was right around this time that we made a navigational mistake or choice right about here, where it's hard to see on the map, but the river here splits. It goes and it follows along here where my cursor is, and it kind of does one of these. Right here we decided to continue this way because it just looked like better open water, and we thought it was the main river, until we got to right around this area here where basically the river just stopped and we couldn't paddle anymore. So we had to get out of our canoes and try to figure out where we were and what to do next. So we got out of the boats and started coming out with a plan, and that's about the time the Honey Stingers caught up to us. And they were in the same situation, trying to figure out what happened and now what to do to find a checkpoint. So I think we decided to team up together and try to find a checkpoint. As you can see by my track here, we started trekking towards what we thought the main river was, now that we realized we were off of it. And eventually we saw the river and followed it south and were able to find the checkpoint really quickly. And then it was a trek back towards the boats, which was easier said than done because by now it was starting to get dark out and this area was pretty dense. And seeing a canoe that it's basically hidden by grass and trees and everything, you have to be right on top of it before you see it. But it wasn't too hard. We actually trekked back, almost came out right where the canoes were, jumped back on the canoe and started our paddle back downstream towards the TA. What I failed to mention earlier is that this whole paddling section here, basically from CP4 down to CP5, was really tough paddling, as far as there was a lot of logs across the river. There was just a lot of debris that you had to get out of the boats and either get your canoe over the logs or carry them around in the woods around the debris many times over. It was just very tough going, very exhausting. So it made it for a pretty long and miserable section, even though we only had 3 checkpoints to find. So we made it back to the boat TA and decided to just take, about 5 minutes, eat something, drink, and just look at the map and plan our strategy for the next section on the boat. That section there took us, it was about 10 kilometers we paddled on the way out and back. Took us about 2 hours, 50 minutes, as you can see here, just shy of 3 hours just to get those 3 checkpoints. It was very time consuming, and this would have a huge effect on how the race turned out later on. So you will see that. Back to the boats. So after just a few minutes of sitting down and resting, we decided to let's go, and there was no time to waste. Started paddling downstream, and as you can see here, we had to turn around. And that is because I failed to read the instructions where it said that we had to come back to the boat TA after the first section and exchange our punch cards and get a new punch card for the checkpoints that were further downstream. So luckily we realized it soon enough, for better sooner than later, because we were still, it was probably 10 minutes that we wasted, but it still, still kind of sucked. So we went back, picked up the punch card, and then headed back downriver. Now this section of the river, unlike the first one, was really, really nice because this is now a really nice wide open area. There is a lot of zigzagging back and forth, but there wasn't any debris at all. It was just staying in the canoe, paddling as hard as you can. It was now dark, so we were just using our headlamps. CP6 found fairly easy. It was right along the water. You could not miss it. Kept going up the river. Like you see, it's a very, very long paddle. Got to Blackwater Creek where it intersects the Wekiva River here. CP7 is where we sort of missed it. We actually ended up around here and did not see CP7. We continued up the river and we knew that we could just get CP8 and then come back to CP7. When we got right around here near CP8, we saw, we were coming down this little creek here and we saw honey stingers heading back from CP8. So they weren't too far ahead of us. We picked up CP8, headed back. Now that we knew exactly where we were, came back down, picked up CP7, and headed to CP9. And this is about where all hell broke loose for us. Just one of those situations that happens in adventure races every once in a while. CP9 was located right about there, as you can tell, and I have a red circle through it because we ended up not finding it. So you can see by this track here, like I said, we went from 7, we went up to 8, came back down to 7, and then paddled this way. Our goal was to paddle back to 9 and end. We ended up spending lots of time in this area, paddled, made it all the way back to 8, realized that, come all the way back down, paddled down several extra little channels here. We were just not sure what happened. We were just had a hard time finding CP9 and figuring out exactly where it was. Greg had told us at the beginning of the race that you had to be right on it to see it. It was the one checkpoint he made a point to say you have to be right on it to see it, and we were obviously not looking at the right place at the right time. Just wasted some time there, unfortunately, and decided it was too much time. We had to go. We had to continue on the race. So we decided to leave it. It's a tough thing to leave a checkpoint behind. We do not like to do that. We like to clear the course, but every race point comes that you have to decide, we got to keep going. So we decided to keep going, leave the checkpoint behind, and continue down the Wekiva River. Now paddling upstream down the Wekiva, we know this river very, very well. We've paddled it many, many times before. So finding CP10 and CP11 was no issue at all. Continued down the Wekiva, past Katie's Landing, which we've raced at many times before, and got to the TA, which was just south of Katie's Landing, a private residence. And it was right around, let's see here. Yep, it was right around 1 in the morning when we reached the TA and got off the boat finally. That last paddling section, the second part of the paddling section, was 22 kilometers long, and it took us, as you can see, 4 hours and 30 minutes. So we totally were on the boat for about 7.5 hours or so. So quite a bit of paddling. Well, not most of that, but a lot of that was looking for CP9. That took a lot of time for us, unfortunately. So we got off the boats, got some food, got some water, and went off on foot. So we were all relieved to get to the Trek TA here, get off the boats, and switch to a different discipline, stretch our legs finally, and start the trekking section. A fairly long trek, well, not quite too long, but long enough that it was going to be nice. Like I said, it was 1 in the morning, pitch dark out, which is one of the best things about adventure racing is racing at night. There's quite nothing like it. We went down to Wekiva Park Drive. Just went down to 46 and went into the park here, as you can see. Picked up the Florida Foot Trail and started finding some checkpoints fairly easy. CP12A, which was added at the last minute, that's why the letter A. We had CP12 along the Florida Foot Trail, continued north, found this fire road here to CP13. There's some pretty nice ruins right here where the point was located. And then we went on an adventure. We decided that there was this little trail here that we could see on the map, so we decided to follow it north and try to come back and pick up the Florida Foot Trail. At least on the map that we had, it's not like this one. It showed this trail connecting with the Florida Foot Trail. We wanted to follow it back up like this. We never found it. This whole area had been torn down by machines recently. I think they had a controlled burnout here. So we followed it north, could not find the Florida Foot Trail, and just started making our way through all this wetland here, constantly wet, all the way up, and it took us a while to get to this trail here. But once we found the trail, we were good to go, picked up the trail, and easily made our way up to the Florida Foot Trail, just north of that. Found CP14 really quickly and easily, and then finally made our way back to the boat TA, which was our next transition area. So now we're at the boat TA, and we are going from trekking to biking. But before that, let me show you our stats. We finished that trekking section at about 3:50 in the morning. It was about just shy of 13 kilometers, and it took us 2 hours and 42 minutes. Again, that one section where we were trekking through the wetlands was pretty slow going for us, so that took us a long time. So now on to the long bike section. So it's 4 in the morning now, and we have 5 hours to finish the race. We have a fairly long bike section ahead of us, along with a last 6-point trekking section to do, all in 5 hours. We have to finish by 9 a.m. So we get on our bikes and off we go. The section started out really nice on some really nice packed shell roads. Trails. We went right at CP15, no issues. Followed the trail up. CP16, continued on. All the riding was just really nice. Got to CP17, 18, and again, finding these checkpoints was no issue at all. They were right where they're supposed to be. We had no issues in getting them. I think right here, yeah, we had to shoot a bearing to CP18, which was fairly simple to do. And then we came across CP19. We biked down this long trail here, and CP19 was located at the edge of this wetland. However, the trail here continues this way. On the map that we showed, it kind of showed the trail as kind of going this way, but the main trail continued like this. This trail was very hard to see when you were on this trail. It was very overgrown, and you just had to be right on it to know you were on it. So as you can see by my track here, we followed the main trail and started looking for this area, but down here. And as you can tell, we were way off of it, and we went back and forth many times here. We finally, at one point, came back to the intersection, and Jason said, okay, I think I have the trail. We thought we were on it, and as you can see, I came within just a few, maybe 100 meters of the checkpoint. But, you know, again, at pitch dark at night, this distance is hard to see a checkpoint unless you're basically close to it. So this was just one of those points that, again, we were unsure of exactly where we were. We had a hard time pinpointing our location. And we came right by it. Again, I was right there at one point or another and just did not see it. We were just, you know, out of luck, had wasted already quite a bit of time, as you can see here, looking for it. So by that time, we were pretty disappointed and had decided to, again, skip a checkpoint. And we continued on the bike trail. Skipped 19, continued the trail, went to CP20, and this one was another one that was a little hard to find per the map that we had. It wasn't quite accurate, I guess I could say. I mean, it was near where we should have been, but the map was just a little confusing that we had it. But we ended up finding it, but as you can see, we kind of looked around a couple areas here. No big deal. Found a checkpoint, found CP21, followed up the trail a little more, sorry, and got to CP22. Now this is when we decided that our time was starting to get really, really, really close. Our next checkpoint, CP23, would have been here. The way to go would have been to come up this trail. But from here on, this trail looked really, really nasty, very, very overgrown, and we knew that riding would be very, very slow going. So we made a team decision to go ahead and skip the rest of the bike points, just go back to the start-finish area, which was really our main, or I'm sorry, our next TA, and start the next trekking section. We knew we would have about 1 hour and 15 minutes to do the last trekking section before the race was over. And there was 6 points in the trekking section. We only had 3 points on the bike left. So we just decided that to get a few more points, it would be better if we skipped these last 3 biking points. And that is exactly what we did. From CP22, we biked back to the main trail here and up to the start finish line again, which was our next transition area. The stats for that bike section there, as you can see, we arrived at the TA at 7:44 in the morning. It was a 29K total bike ride, so 30 kilometers we rode, and it took us just shy of 4 hours for the entire bike section. Again, CP19 gave us a hard time, and it just cost us, I think, the time that we would have needed to find those last 3 checkpoints, unfortunately. But we made a team decision to skip those and go on to the last section. And so, back at the main TA, we put on our trekking shoes and off we went for the last hour and 15 minutes of the race, finding what would be very easy to find 6 checkpoints. We started going to CP26. Again, these were all very easy to find. CP27, we followed the loop clockwise. CP29, from CP30 we were on the main trail. We had to shoot a bearing at CP30 and just, again, very easy. Came back out on this trail. 31 and 32, and then just a quick short little jog to the finish line. And finally, we finished at 8:53 in the morning. That was 17 hours and 53 minutes of total racing. That last section was actually exactly 6 kilometers, and it took us just about an hour. So we started with about an hour and 15 minutes, and we finished in an hour and 10 minutes. So again, we finished the race at 8:53, 17 hours and 53 minutes later. And as you can see here, we came in on 5th place. Honey Stinger had an incredible race. They finished in 16 hours and 51 minutes, cleared the course, all 37 points. That's just amazing for that course. Dr. Ron and his team were truly incredible at that race. We ended up with 32 points because we skipped those last 3 bike points and the 2 points that we went at, but unfortunately had to leave because we couldn't find them. We feel that if it wasn't for all the time we lost looking for CP9 on the paddle and for CP19, that would have given us enough time to get those last 3 bike points and move up in the standings with 3 extra bike points. But that's adventure racing. You never know what's going to happen, no matter how fast or how slow your team is. Any day, anything can happen. And that's why we love it. So again, great race. We had a lot of fun. Pangea did an amazing time. The volunteers were great. Greg set up a great course. Weather was perfect for us. And we had a great time and can't wait to do it again, the next one. All right. I hope everybody enjoyed this race report, and we'll see you next time.